My next guest has fought to protect the unborn for decades and introduced an act to protect babies in utero until 20 weeks. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham joins me now. Senator, good to have you with us. I know this is something that you've felt very strongly about for a long time. So I want to start where David Spunt's reporting left off, and that is from what you heard in the back and forth with the justices and the attorneys on both sides of this case yesterday. Which way does it sound to you? I know it's hard to say that they're leaning, and would it be a full overturn or perhaps something in the middle that many believe Justice Roberts may have been hinting at?
Well, it's hard to say, but I'm just so glad the case is before the Supreme Court. What happened is that Casey basically overruled Roe. Roe banned all abortions in the third trimester. Attempts by the government to regulate abortion up until the end of the second trimester. Casey said no. Once there's medical viability, the baby can live apart from the mother, then the state has an interest in protecting the child. Here's the problem. That was 1973, 1992. Today, the ability to protect an unborn child is incredibly enhanced. We're one of 7 nations in the entire friggin' world that allow abortion on demand at 20 weeks. At 20 weeks, over 5 months into the pregnancy, Martha, you're encouraged to sing to your unborn child because they can associate your voice as a child. The theory of the case is to abort a baby at 20 weeks is an excruciating death. Babies feel pain. Justice Sotomayor doesn't really understand what she's talking about. She suggested that babies at this period of time in development really are not conscious human beings. They are. They feel pain. To operate on a baby at 20 weeks, doctors provide anesthesia to the unborn child because in the process of operating on the baby to save its life, you want to provide anesthesia because they can feel pain. So I'm confident that the Supreme Court is going to move away from the medical viability standard to something that makes more sense.
All right. I want to play something from Brett Kavanaugh because it was very interesting to listen to him. You were obviously a huge champion of his confirmation process, and he was pressed, as they all are, time and time again, on whether this was settled law. So here's what he said in that hearing, and here's what he said yesterday in the audio play out.
I understand the importance of the precedent set forth in Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade held, of course, and it's reaffirmed in Planned Parenthood versus Casey. If we think that the prior precedents are seriously wrong, if that, why then doesn't the history of this court's practice with respect to those cases tell us that the right answer is actually to return to the position of neutrality?
It's very interesting. You know, you can sort of see what he did there. One is recognizing, yes, I absolutely recognize that this is a precedent, and precedent is a very difficult thing to overturn. And then yesterday, he's talking about other cases that have been overturned because they were found to be wrong. Your thoughts?
Well, Plessy versus Ferguson basically said that African Americans are not real people, and that Brown versus Board of Education ruled that segregation, it happened in my state, separate is not equal. There are a lot of times where the Supreme Court revisits precedent because it didn't work, it was a mistake. I think the idea of the 5 members of the Supreme Court telling every state legislature in the country about abortion, when life begins, and how to protect the unborn is a mistake. Democratic members are passing a bill through the House of Representatives trying to enshrine Roe. That's the way it should work. I think elected officials should have a voice. I think the people through the elected bodies in this country should have a say about things like abortion. There's nothing in the Constitution about abortion. They took the liberty phrase in the 14th Amendment and created this right called substantive due process that led 5-6 members of the Supreme Court to shut down every legislative body when it comes to whether or not unborn children should be protected and when. I'm hoping the court will restore to the people, through their elected representatives, a voice about how they feel about the unborn. It may be different in one state than the other.
Exactly, and I think that that's the point that people need to understand about what's going on here is that, and Kavanaugh talked about it with the return to neutrality for the court,
Right.
that the question is whether or not this is something that needs to be decided at the state level and the congressional level, and not in the courts, which is something that was taken on in Roe v. Wade. So it's fascinating. We're going to see where it goes. We've got a bit of time to wait, but I'm glad that you were able to join us to weigh in today, Senator. Always good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.